Hello, I'm Dr. Lee Hildebrand, Director of Lakeshore Psychology Services, a life coach, and also a public speaker. I'm excited today to talk about something that I think will be helpful to some people. I have a friend that's in a relationship that I was just talking with the other day, and this person identified aspects of the relationship that just did not seem like they were working. And she was thinking about the question how to really identify or know when to call it quits on a dating relationship that's not working. So that led me to think it could be very helpful to do a video on 10 guidelines that might indicate to you that a dating relationship is either broken or it's not heading in a good direction. So I'm going to start off with number one, and that is physical abuse. This probably seems obvious to most people. However, there are some times in the heat of the moment that we can find ourselves in a relationship where things start to get physical, or there's pushing or shoving, or much worse. This is a huge indicator. If you find that there is physical aggression, um, any kind of physical kind of violence or pushing, shoving, threatening, those kinds of things, that is a sure sign that this is not a healthy relationship and it could be very good to end it immediately. Number two, if you identify that you're in the relationship with a narcissist, roughly defined as somebody who has a tendency to make everything about them in one way or another, even if they're ingratiating at times or very charismatic. If you step back and you look at most of their actions, behaviors, etc., and you can see a common thread of a motivation for them to look good, receive more attention from other people, that the praise or the positive things that they say about you are directed to get the attention of other people, to make it seem like you have a perfect relationship or that they're such a great guy or gal in the relationship, and that when you're trying to get attention or those things from them, that it only happens in situations that they're trying to have all roads lead back to them, you may be in a relationship with a narcissist. Unfortunately, it is impossible emotionally to have a healthy relationship with a person who suffers from narcissism. And so this would be a clear sign to seriously consider breaking off the relationship and looking in a direction for people that have the capacity to give you what you need and what you're looking for. Number three, if there continues to be emotional abuse or gaslighting in the relationship, and I'm not talking about occasionally, I'm talking about a consistent pattern, and you may even see this with a narcissistic personality, where it seems like the person is in attack mode, or they're sarcastic, or they have tremendous challenges with admitting they're wrong in any situation, where they say things that are mean, where they make fun of your weaknesses, those kinds of things. And then also gaslighting, which roughly is defined as making it your fault in all circumstances. Setting up situations in their response to occurrences that point the finger at you and indicate, oh, there you go, there, see, in some form or fashion, it's your fault again. You're the problem in all caps. That is number three, is another serious indicator that this relationship is not heading in the right direction and you really want to reconsider. Number four, if a person is emotionally unavailable. This is a situation where you may be trying to connect, trying to find inroads, have deep conversation, share vulnerabilities about who you are, and desire to experience more vulnerability about who they are, and they consistently seem to have a pattern of not being present emotionally, not being available emotionally, and not being willing to be vulnerable emotionally. Number five, this is a situation with no mutual interest. Now, in a healthy relationship, it can be just fine to have a mix of interests that are not exactly the same, that dovetail together. And what you may find in a healthy relationship is that you have some things you really enjoy doing together, an array of things that you enjoy. And then there'll be some things that you both like to do on your own. My wife and I, we love to be in the outdoors. We love to be active. We love hiking, family, a number of other things together. And then there's some things that we do individually. Like I run races, and that's not specifically her forte in terms of that. There's certain things she likes that she does a little bit more on her own. But on the whole, we do mutual interest together in a number of things. This is a situation that's a red flag where it feels like he or she has no interest in the things that are important to you, doesn't get excited about them, is not supportive of you in terms of your goals and your excitement in pursuing these things. That's a definite red flag and could be consideration in terms, and if you have some other factors on this list as well, to reconsidering the relationship. Number 6, major differences in political, philosophical, or spiritual beliefs. Now, this is a situation, again, with nuances. You don't have to agree with your partner on every single issue and matter in life. However, if you do not agree on almost anything, if they're a staunch Democrat and you're a staunch Republican, if they're, for example, a theistic Christian and they're an atheist, if you philosophically feel like everything in life is just matter and they feel that there's a whole other realm in terms of spirituality and emotion, etc., these could be serious signs that the relationship is not going to work. And these things also spill over into things like parenting. If you are to get married someday and have children, these major differences can definitely cause strain and stress and feel a bit like you're slogging through the mud in the relationship versus having some harmony in those things. So you don't have to agree on everything. You definitely, though, do need to agree on the important things in terms of having a healthy relationship. Number 7, this could possibly be a touchy one, but that is wide-ranging differences in levels of intelligence. Generally, people that have successful relationships can relate to one another on an intellectual level, and it doesn't mean that you have the same focus. You could have an accountant and you could have an artist, but in terms of their overall sense of intelligence and being able to dialogue and understand concepts and have intuitiveness, there's also emotional intelligence, which is EQ. If both their IQ and their EQ don't at least have some overlap and some connection, that definitely can send the relationship in a negative direction. What can happen is the person that feels like they're just not as much in the know can feel left out, can feel a little intimidated or overwhelmed by the other person. And then the trade-off of that is the person that feels that they're a bit more intelligent. And this is touchy, right? Because you don't want to be the person that says, hey, I feel like I'm a bit smarter than you. I don't think this is going to work. However, you need to be realistic about this in terms of a serious relationship. So the person that feels they may be a bit or a lot more intelligent on things, feels like their partner just isn't getting things, that they're slow to process things, that they can't operate on a similar wavelength in decision making and other things, and there's a wide gap. Emphasis here is on wide gap. You may really want to reconsider this relationship. Number 8, deceit. Trust is a fundamental foundation of relationship. If you are dating somebody and you get a sense, either in an obvious example such as infidelity, or small nuances where they may be untruthful about situations or lie in situations that are not really big deals, but they have this tendency to lie about things to try to cover up. Those can definitely be red flags. The opposite is true. If you are a trustworthy person and you are a pretty straightforward person, your family, your friends feel that way, and you are in a relationship with somebody that indicates they're having challenges or difficulties trusting you, that can definitely be a red flag as well. So, honesty and trust is an important part of a healthy relationship. Number 9, overly intrusive family members or parents can really be a strain and a source of stress for a relationship. If you find yourself in a relationship with a man who seems like he's never left the nest and is tied at the hip with his mother, and you feel like you are a threat to that relationship just by being in relationship with him, that can be a big problem. The opposite is true. If a daughter is overly attached to their father or mother, doesn't make any decisions without them, sidelines you as a partner when you're trying to make decisions with her, and you feel like they're all in your business all the time. And this is past like early dating, right? We're talking about serious dating at this point. You really want to look at this, because when you're looking at long-term relationship and or marriage, you don't just marry your partner, you get the family too. So have awareness about that. If it's a situation where it's severely intrusive, you may want to reconsider the situation, especially if you have some of these other factors at play as well. Number 10, this one I've seen in situations in my practice come up. I've seen situations where two people get along really well. They have been dating and they're both, let's just say for couples that are a little bit on the younger side, and things are humming along, and they come to an impasse. And that is, one person in the relationship wants to have a family and children, and the other person does not want to have children at all. This is definitely a situation where even if all the other factors look really good, this can be an impasse. It can be a deal breaker. No question. And you might say, well, if everything else is going well in the relationship, why don't we compromise? If it's a smaller issue to you, or if you're like, well, I wouldn't mind having kids, but I'm open, that's different. If you say, I really want to have kids in a family, that's an important value to me, I've always imagined that. Trying to have a relationship work with a partner that is against that, does not want to have that, is a no-win situation. And the opposite is true as well. You're not going to convert that person necessarily. And what's going to happen is, if you do, there may be resentment there. They may not be as engaged or as involved as you would like them to be. So, and then the opposite is true if you're with somebody that really wants to have kids, and you think that you're going to sway them into not having kids. That could be a similar recipe for disaster as well. So keep that in mind. So these are 10 guidelines to help you in having some discernment if there's some red flags in your relationship that would bring up considerations that maybe this is not the right fit for you and this other person. Now, one last point on this is that people can grow. We all grow and we can change. If I didn't believe that, then I wouldn't be in the field that I am in regard to psychology and life coaching. I'm in the business of opportunities for change. However, many of us, when we get into our late teens, even early 20s, there are some aspects of our personality that are pretty solidly developed. So in relationship, be careful not to go in with the assumption that you're going to fundamentally change the other person on major and important issues. That will be a pathway to disappointment for you if you make that assumption. But in the spirit of change, if you're in a relationship and there's issues that are not as good as you'd like them to be, but they're not any of the major ones like physical abuse or major deceit or some of the other ones I mentioned, and you're working on things, let's say you're in counseling, they're in counseling, or you're doing some other forms of personal growth, and you feel like there's a lot of positives there, then you have to evaluate, is this something where we can continue to do the work and get to a point where there's all of these positives are going to be supplemented by more positives in the growth process of working on the areas where we have some weaknesses. So this is different for all situations, of course, and at the end of the day, each of us gets to make that decision because, of course, it is our lives. And I really hope that my discussion today has helped you if you're in that situation or you have a friend that's in that situation, to just have a few guideposts in regard to determining if there are red flags that lead you to a point where you really need to land the plane and end the relationship. I hope you found this helpful today. Please feel free to like my video. You're welcome to share it with anybody that you feel like it could help. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Have a great day and thanks.